Hello once again, lovers of The Walking Dead. My name is Nick Pell, and
I'm sleepy. You don't have to like it, but I can introduce myself however I want. I've earned this right.
That's Aaron Scott, and we are going to be talking about Season 4, Episode 6 of The Walking Dead, entitled Live Bait. Just for the record, there will be immense spoilers throughout this video about the previous episodes in Season 3, as well, or of Season 4, as well as this episode itself.
As well as Season 3. Go watch
whole time, yeah.
the entire series in one sitting. Just binge watch.
It's a terrible idea.
It's a great idea.
You can't do that. There's more episodes than 24 hours. Okay.
Try.
So this is a governor-centric episode. We see none of Rick's group throughout this whole episode. It focuses strictly on the governor and deals essentially with the events since we saw him at the very end of Season 3. It literally starts off with the last scene in Season 3 where we see him after he's gunned down most of his supporters in Woodbury, and he's driving off with his two henchmen. And we very quick into the episode, we see that he's abandoned by these two guys. They realize that he's essentially crazy at this point, and it's essentially a lot of him walking around. And
I don't even remember the two guys' names. It's just it's him wandering around for like, I don't know, a couple of months.
Yeah, probably a few months at least.
Based on his beard.
Yeah.
And then he ends up stumbling upon this. We don't even know where the hell he is.
Yeah, we don't know at all.
He just stumbles upon like this building and he sees this little girl in the window. Yeah. And for a while, for a couple of minutes, I thought he was just like imagining things and had just gone nuts.
Yeah, I thought he saw his daughter just in his imagination or something.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But then he ends up going in the building and knows the little girl's real. And there's a bunch of. I mean, it moves pretty quickly into that storyline.
Yeah, which I liked. And one thing about this episode, which I really like when TV shows and movies and books and all forms of entertainment do, is when they show us both sides of a situation. Because for the whole extent of Season 3, and even for the most part of the books, talking comic books, not the novels that depict the governor, he's been viewed as this monster, this crazy psychopath, this terrible human being. In this side, we see him as a broken individual who seems to be trying to redeem himself. More or less, he's lost Woodbury, he's lost everything that he's cared about. He looks at the picture of his family. Fuck you, fire alarm! God damn it! We interrupt this video for a brief fire alarm. We'll be back in a second. God damn it. So that happened.
That was fun.
Yep.
Really, really cold outside right now.
A little bit. Minnesota does that.
And I know how long. I think we were outside for what, 15, 20 minutes?
Something like that. Yeah.
Well, it was cold.
Yep. I feel like the governor right now, after wandering through the world
Shut up!
for months on end. Tough times.
Stop it right now. But we did get pretzels out of the experience.
We did. Pretzels. So, I think what we were talking about before the death alarms went off was the fact that the governor seems like he really is trying to reform himself. He has been depicted as this horrible human being throughout all forms of media that he's in, and we see him basically broken, decrepit, and he is basically on the last legs of his life. At the beginning of the episode, he essentially collapses before he sees the little girl, and I think that was him essentially just giving up, and then he sees kind of a sign of hope of civilization in the window.
Kind of almost of his humanity too.
Yeah.
I think. Okay, that was our front door. Our front door does not always close right away when you let go of it. And apparently, it happens less and less, but apparently that's what just happened. And it kind of scared the crap out of us. I don't know if you can hear that on there. But okay. What I was going to say before the door scared me was that I think the symbol of a young girl, such as Penny, or what was her name? Megan?
Yeah,
Megan, who's the little girl in this episode, kind of symbolizes his humanity more than anything.
How so?
Well, as long as he had Penny, he wasn't truly terrible.
Yeah.
And then after he lost Penny, that's when things just got a little insane.
You're talking after Michonne killed.
After Michonne killed
Or
Zombie Penny.
Okay.
And then once he found Megan, he kind of started to gain some of that humanity back.
Yeah, he kind of replaced Megan with Penny.
Aside from the creepy hairbrushing.
Yeah, besides from that, but because later in the episode, you see after he's like become kind of a part of this family, you see him essentially treat her like his own daughter. In a sense, he's playing chess with her. He's teaching her all this stuff. He kind of is forming a father-daughter bond with her, and it's a really interesting thing to see. And I don't know. It's just not a side of the governor that I was really expecting to see.
Yeah.
Bring out, and I like it.
It was really kind of interesting to see his backstory.
Yeah. Well, backstory.
Well,
Kinda.
what he's been doing
Yeah.
since the end of Woodbury.
Yeah. He burns Woodbury.
He does, but that's kind of, I think, more of an act of rage than anything.
Rage and probably symbolism, because he sees like this civilization that
Burning
built
his past,
Yeah, like
yeah.
it's just gone. It's gone. I'm moving on.
Probably. This was probably, I'm sure there are people who could sit there and analyze this episode and tell us how, the way he brushes back the leaves is symbolic of something. Point is, there are some very obvious symbols in it, but I think the episode really is kind of a really nice way to kind of bring the two stories together, because at the end of episode 5?
6.
5?
6. Oh, well, are you talking about last week's?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Episode
Yeah,
5. We're going to argue over the number a little while longer. Episode 5, you see him outside the prison, and so this is kind of a nice way to bring those storylines together.
Yeah.
And I think we really are. I loved the episode and hated it at the same time, because I didn't want to have any feelings for the governor and like good feelings, like, oh my gosh, I kind of like him as a character, but now I have those feelings, and so I'm kind of mad that I have them, and I'm kind of like, okay, I could get used to this. I don't know what to make of it, but it's great.
It was really interesting also when one of the women is kind of fixing him up and leaves him with Megan, because she's just asking him about his eye, and if he lost it when he was born or if he lost it by some other means. And he basically tells her that in the most broad of terms, because he can't really go into all the details of what he did, but he tells her that there was someone who took something from him because he was trying to protect somebody that he cared about, and that person also got hurt, and just this very interesting scene, because we see essentially how he sees Rick's group. He sees them as these people who came in and basically destroyed everything that he had built up, and he sees them as essentially the villains. And I want to say in the novels that have been written about the governor, they included Rick's group eventually, and they kind of show what he perceives them as through his eyes. And it's just a really interesting concept, and I love it when stories do this. Like Wicked did it with Wizard of Oz. We see it through the Wicked Witch's perspective instead of just through Dorothy. And I love it when stories show both sides of the same story.
Yeah, and I can't tell if at this point he still feels like animosity towards Rick's group yet, just because we haven't. The episode didn't deal with that yet.
Yeah.
The series hasn't dealt with that yet. And so I think once we get back to the storylines meeting, it'll be interesting, because the next episode, episode 7, looks to be kind of the same thing. I love the fact that we always look up the promo for it, but we never look up the actual title.
Yeah.
Aside from the last 4 videos.
Yeah. That's
But
true.
so I don't know what the title is of the next episode, but it'll be interesting to see what happens when they bring the storylines together. But I also think there's one huge shift that really kind of helps bringing the governor back into the storyline in a different light than from what he came from.
Yeah.
And that is, instead of calling him the governor, they call him Brian, which is his name.
Yeah.
And so you see that shift from this person who could be anyone. The governor could be anyone. It could be me. It could be Nick, though I don't see Nick shooting hundreds of people in a field.
Yeah.
To Brian, and Brian is like an almost different character, and so it'll be really interesting to see how that character evolves as opposed to the governor.
Yeah, and my guess, and something which can probably be predicted, is that he will revert back into the governor eventually. My prediction for next week's episode, assuming that at the end of that episode they connect the two. They at some point show the governor looking at the prison just at the end of episode 5. And my guess is that the people that he's with will get killed in some way, shape, or form. That's my guess, and that's how he kind of converts back, because he's gonna have lost these people twice now, or maybe someone from Rick's group will have caused it unknowingly, and he'll realize this, or something. There will be something to kind of drive him back towards the prison and want revenge. That's my guess.
I have to disagree with you. I think what'll happen, and this is the optimist in me coming out, depending on what day it is, I might be an optimist. Yeah. The rest of the time I'm a pessimist, because I don't think, or indifferent, I don't know. Never mind that. Yeah. So I think what'll happen actually is he'll reach out to Rick for the sake of the people he's with, the small group he's with, the 3 women, the three girls. I think he will instead reach out to the group and say, you don't have to see me ever again, but take them.
Okay.
That's my prediction, and again, that's the optimist and hopeless romantic kind of in me saying that, but that would be my prediction, because I think they could easily take him back to the bad guy. Yeah. But I think they're trying to show a shift, and I think if they took him back to the bad guy, they'd have to wait a long time to do that, like more than 2 episodes. Like closer to the end of the season.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It'll be interesting, because like your possibility is just as likely as mine.
Because like in the promo for next week, it looks like so he meets up with the 2 guys he originally left with, and it looks like their group is kind of that dog-eat-dog world, not really looking out for each other, but banded together more out of necessity than any other reason. Yeah. And so I have a feeling he might be trying to get these women and this girl out of that situation. Yeah.
Oh, that's very that's very possible. I don't know. It's always really interesting with predicting this stuff, because
you never know what's gonna happen.
Well, again, with the comics though, because there is a certain way that this whole thing plays out. And like I've said for these last few episodes, I would like to see it play out in a similar fashion. But after hearing Anna's prediction, I think it is possible that they could change it a little bit, which would be a really interesting twist for the show if it was done right.
Yeah, it would have to be done right. You couldn't make him buddy with Rick. No. I think you always kind of have to have those 2 characters opposing in some way.
And plus, Michonne would never allow it.
But they kind of, I think what will end up happening is they'll make the 2 characters so they balance each other out. Maybe. Because Rick's kind of been balanced out by himself after the dictatorship. Yeah. And the governor's starting to get balanced out. Brian is starting to get balanced out. I think they'll find a way to have a plane where they're balancing each other, and Michonne's stuck in the middle. Yeah.
I mean, they have his name in the opening credits now, too, so it is possible that he'll stay for a fair amount of time. So, I don't know. Do
they still have Carol's name in the opening credits?
I don't know what her real name is as an actress. Yeah, exactly.
I looked it up at one point because I was curious, and I forgot to look at the opening credits to see if she was still in there.
Yeah, I think that they do. Because I think there is knowledge that she will be coming back in some way. But yeah, I don't know, last minute thoughts on the episode before we close it?
It was really good.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah, I was really surprised at like how gripping it was for just an episode that focused solely on the governor. But it would make sense since he is such an interesting character. And yeah, I do like where they're going with it. So, yeah, that's about it. That is our thoughts on episode 6 of season 4 of The Walking Dead. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe if you so choose. We would appreciate it immensely. So, until next time, my name's Nick Pell.
I'm no longer sleepy. I can't be sleepy after that damn fire alarm.
Yeah, that's true. And as always, my good people, keep on watching.
Okay.